about her work in a project and how she's going to connect with the campus. And then we're between Daniel, Yard, and Dr. Williams, we're going to have a good time talking about this relational piece. So I'm going to start
Uh-oh.
with Dr. Williams, and then we'll go from there.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I am Dr. Marquita Williams. I am a psychologist, and I have been working for the last 2 decades helping people love themselves and love other people in the most meaningful and healthy ways. And what does that mean? I have two brands. The self-love brand is called Loving My Curves. I am a plus size woman psychologist here in the city. And I have been working over the years with women and girls in self acceptance, self esteem, and increased body awareness and body positivity.
So,
You know, we live in a society that says this is good and this is bad. This is negative and this is
okay.
positive. And so, as it relates to women and our bodies,
Yes.
over 90% of American women have an issue with our bodies and want to change something, want to tweak something, want something to be better. And in this social media arena, there's always this comparison. And so my work is looking at ways to help us all to accept ourselves just the way we are, to value ourselves, to maintain health, because body positivity is about accepting and valuing ourselves and the skin that we're in. But it doesn't say that you can't improve, you can't make changes based on what you want to do, you know, with your life. The key is value, health, and wellness. And so I'm going to be working with Rutgers and the campus to really talk about the issues of body awareness and body acceptance and self-esteem and what that looks like in our daily lives. The other brand that works with individuals loving other people better is called Back to Love. You know, we live in a society that's transactional. There is a lot of cancel culture out here in dating, and vulnerability and authenticity has long ago been thrown to the side. According to several of my clients and friends who are single and dating. And Back to Love really is helping people to do a self-assessment and examination of our own readiness to love and to be loved, as well as to understand what it is that we need in relationships, understand what it is that we value, and to talk to people and show them how to get the most out of our relationships. And so that's the work that I have been doing for many, 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 many years.
Hey, well, thank you, Dr. Marquita. I know we were having some technical difficulties. So, one of the things I want to highlight to people is that one of the things I love about Dr. Marquita's work is this idea of, the not just body positivity, but the
Mhm.
concept of loving yourself,
Yes,
no matter what. And I
right.
think, and if you look at both of her brands, it's even thinking about how do you love yourself in the context of yourself as an individual, but also relationally.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really want to highlight and really stress as we're talking about our topic today is that that's also a spiritual moment too. I think one of the things that we really want to really stress, and I think Dr. Marquita just sort of highlighted that in terms of like what's thrown out the window right now in terms of vulnerability, this idea that,
Mhm.
people are struggling with connection and all of the things that she's hearing. And I want to think about that from the lens of how that's creating a space, not just amongst each other, but within ourselves in terms of we're questioning our value, our worth, our ability to engage and things like that. So one of the things that I'm going to have everybody, start chiming in on, I'm going to go back to you, Dr. Williams, again, and then we're going to bring in Yarn and Daniel is, so what are we seeing when we're talking about this sort of relational world, and how is that impacting people and what are the work we need to do,
Mhm.
in terms of our own self-development and sense of worth. What are we seeing out there? So Dr. William, and then I'm gonna go to Yarn and Daniel.
Oh my goodness. We are seeing the disruption of dating via social media.
Mm, mhm,
You
mhm.
know, there was a poll that was done, I think it was done by one of the dating apps, and it was over 60% of single people said that dating in 2024 is much harder than it has ever been
Wow.
before, right? And when they asked them why, it was that idea around um, transactional relationships,
Mm-hmm.
looking at, what we're seeing on social media as these ideals that really are snapshots of people's good days,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Talking about the backdrop of this cancel culture. If I don't like it today, if I don't like it today, I can swipe it, I can move on, I can shift
Mm-hmm.
the person and tomorrow have something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that like this mindset that we're in, these days it moves us away from the traditional value of relationships. I even heard of choice fatigue, which is that sort of cancel culture phenomenon, in that people on dating apps, because there's so many choices, right? It's hard to really hone in on who you are, what you want, the truth of that, the
Mm-hmm.
value of that, and then make a connection to another person that's on the same path. Because if you don't like it, like I said today, you can choose something else tomorrow. And that is as what we're seeing. We've moved exponentially away from the value of relationship and human connection, I would say.
I agree with you so much, Dr. Marquita. I just came back from a global studies class, and actually, we talked a little bit about social media and how
Mhm.
it ultimately shapes our reality.
Mhm.
We see people's good days and we don't see the bad,
Mhm.
which makes us want to have even better days.
Right.
As well as I think for self-development, a lot of self-reflection needs to happen. And I feel
Absolutely.
like people lack that, not necessarily on a day-to-day basis, but you just need to take a step back and realize and be aware of what you're doing or how you're talking just to improve some of those relationships.
Mhm. Absolutely. Self-assessment is so important. And I know, we may talk about that a little bit, but just, to piggyback on what you're saying, before you can attract, what you want, you kind of have to, I think, be that which you want to attract, which means I need to understand, what my triggers are, what my hot spots are, well, how am I presenting to this other person? What are my values? What are my goals? And what am I willing to compromise on? So I think it's really important to do your work first, so that then you can connect with a like-minded person and, hopefully have a healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm. So, Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's very essential when it comes to relationship and spirituality. Why?
I, I can't hear the gentleman
Daniel,
talk.
we just need you to speak up a little bit more.
Can you hear me now?
You could talk like you're in your outside voice. It's fine.
It's just a little bit low.
Okay, so picking from this, right, it's we identify our identity, right, as spiritual beings, right? And I think relationships have become so toxic because we fail to understand who we are, right? And I kind of like what you did mention about the back to love, right? And once you are able to identify who you are, then you're able to step back and give what you are. I deal with young people a lot, and as a mentor to them, one of the things that they struggle with is, what do I have? And
Mm,
I feel that is where times depression, anxiety
mm-hmm.
kicks in a lot because they don't know what they have.
Mm.
And once
I
you are
like that.
able to identify yourself, and when I saw this topic as spirituality and well-being, I was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
this is very essential.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a human being, first of all, you're a spiritual entity,
Mm-hmm.
right? And once you're able to identify that, you are able to influence what comes your way.
I love that.
You know,
I love that. And I think that's the part that we really want to talk about, because I love what that point of what you're saying is that if we are sort of these sort of complex, multifaceted sort of individuals, then how are we tapping into that? And one of the things that I think Dr. Williams is stressing, and what everybody's bringing up so far in the comments, is that I think we discount that part of ourselves, that internal world that we take for granted. And then I think that's the struggle in terms of how we're sort of relating to each other. And my concern is how it leads to people being disheartened, discouraged, disconnected, in terms of that. And if we're not conscious, it's like it sort of leads to this deteriorating space of bitterness, and where you're feeling like, hey, I don't even know what to do. So I'm curious. I know we've been talking about that. What's happening on these college campuses? Like, what are we hearing around life here? And is it consistent with what we're hearing just in a general community? And then we can kind of keep this conversation going around that.
Good question. Well, the relationships we maintain are not transactional, but very deeply connected. I feel like, well, I'm going to speak for myself here, but the connections that I have, I love them. I adore them. Um, I take away meaningful things from them. And that's due to how deep of a connection we have. I'm a very social person. I like talking. I love yapping my mouth as always. But it's really those moments where I sit down with a person and have a conversation that is a little bit out of my comfort zone. And then I really understand, hey, this person thinks like this, but I also think like this.
So what I'm hearing is it's this idea that you can value yourself and other people, even though you have some differences. So, Daniel, what are you hearing out there? Or what's happening?
From a grad perspective, as a third-year PhD student, one of the things that I've recognized, and also coming as an international student, I see most of the international students going through a lot of stress connected one with the system.
Oh, wow.
Right. And especially as an African, it's just an opposite infrastructure. So such an opportunity, I see that, right, made us to come together to create this group called the Purpose Group.
Okay.
Right. So we meet every other month, and in that discussion, we voice out our struggles. And some of the things that I keep hearing from that is that, this cause is very, very, very big. You know what? I'm going through financial stress. You know what? I'm going through relational stress. Such a transaction. So we try to find solution to each other.
Okay.
This is very pertinent as we are talking about to what is going on. Even she's undergrad, even at the grad school.
Gotcha. Can you tell people in terms of your group, is it a closed group by invitation, or if people were interested, how would they get connected to that?
So the Purpose Group is open to everyone.
Okay.
That once you are interested in, so the main thing that led to being on 3 different campuses, what led to us the formation of Purpose Group is that every human being is tripartite, body, spirit, and soul. And having the balance between these 3 perspectives is very difficult. See students who are academically good, but yet still they are going through mental health issues, meaning they are not taking care of their soul. Right? So we came together to form that group, and it's open to everyone. So long as you want a balanced life, you want a balanced success, there is a group for it.
Well, Doctor, I see you smiling, Dr. Marquita.
Well, I'm smiling because I can not hear all
Okay.
of what Joseph is saying, so I'd like for you to repeat a
No
little
problem.
bit.
What can
But
you?
I'm hearing something about the groups.
Yes. So what Daniel mentioned was this idea of they developed a Peppers group, and what it is it's really a support network related to I like how he approached it. It's about balanced living. And so and he understands that we are like threefold beings. He said it's like your body, your mind, and your spirit. And he said one of the things that they found and discovered in the group was the idea that individuals, might be struggling academically, they're smart, trying to figuring that out, or they're not having those struggles, but they could have relationship struggles, financial struggles. And I love how he defined mental health struggles. It's not taking care of your soul. And so I was like, that was really cool. I was like, so I think so he said anybody, it's an open group on the campus. He really highlighted the idea that it's not just an undergraduate issue, it's a graduate issue in terms of the dynamics. And and really it's for anyone who's open to having a balanced experience. And I'll be honest with Dr. Williams, it's not you. We're struggling with some technical stuff on our end. So I don't know what's going
So I'm just talking. I'm like, okay, let me talk. I will talk to the blank screen.
So I figured it's right now it's good, but I guess I'm gonna try to. Okay, so I think it's just look, this is what happens when you're on college radio. So y'all, we're gonna do it again. We'll bring the great Dr. Williams back, but it's working now. And I think one of the things that I got from you was this ideal of resilience. That number one, you have to sort of keep working to put yourself out there. You have to keep finding strategies because I would say with relational work as well as, and I want to blend in the notion of spirituality, it's this ideal that you have to find strategies within, and I think without yourself, of how are you going to keep coming back to the well. We're going to be challenged in life all of the time, and I really appreciate the Peppers group and sort of what Daniel's and is bringing to the table, because sometimes we need to do things outside of ourselves. It's like we don't have enough to get through life. And I think whether you're thinking about relationally or academically, or even with all of the transitions that are going on. And I think the challenge is that as you're blending that notion of spirituality, that there's something else inside of you that gets tapped into. And I really love Daniel's point about, mental health is really about, are you taking care of your soul? And I think we take for granted. And if you think, that even, I don't know your beliefs about souls, but the idea that you are special and important, however way you frame it, and that we need to be in relationships with other people at times to have a similar experience. So, so I know we were trying to piece all that together. If I missed anything, Dr. Williams, feel free, to jump back in with another thought or whatever. I know you got to close and move on with your life, but thank you for your time.
That was a lot in there. That was a lot. I think really the most important takeaway, that I'm hearing is about putting yourself out there. I think because of some of the things that we talked about in the beginning about disappointment and living in a cancel culture and people having a transactional mindset, that will deter individuals from putting ourselves out there and taking a risk and maybe joining a group like Daniel is talking about. But at the end of the day, putting yourself out there, connecting with individuals, it may be a hit or miss, but when it's a hit, it's a hit. And so we have to, continue to exercise those resiliency muscles to get to the goal that I think that we're all looking for, and that is loving and healthy relationships. So.
All right now. Well, again, we thank you for your time. Everybody, look for her on Instagram, our Instagram, and all of that stuff. So, I think it give me a whole bunch of stuff, but I think we're at Rutgers Wellness and Student Wellness for Camden. So feel free to follow her and look for all of her good stuff. She's going to be doing a lecture series in a few weeks for faculty and staff. And students that were interested too. So look for Dr. Marquita Williams. So
thank you so much. Thank you to, your in-studio students. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to do it again. The technology had us rocking and rolling today.
Exactly.
But it's all good. Everything comes together in the end.
Listen,
Thank you so
time.
much for having me today. And I look forward to coming back and doing it. All right.
Take care. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. So I'm coming.
Let me think about that, because there's essentially like so much that I want to say, but as well as spiritualness goes, I have to think on that.
Okay.
So I'll pass to Daniel for now.
All right.
Sure. I think one of the key areas you said, taking from a personal perspective, say student, and that transformation student, you have two primary streams. The first is financial. The two is adjusting to the academic system. And fortunately for me, I was also to grad school, so that means that more stress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On top of that, I'm a married man.
Mm.
So when it comes to keeping your sanity, right?
Yes.
Having your wellness, your mental health, everything figured out. It's now not just about me. How to look at my immediate.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that looking at the subject, spirituality, well-being,
Mm-hmm.
I think the place of faith
Mm.
is
That's
very
true.
crucial, very crucial. And I consider faith as being above
Yes.
believing and confession. And that's the
Okay.
ABC of
Okay.
it has to be about.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you have to believe,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just a little scenario. I think people say, "Oh, I believe it's going to work. Well, I believe I'm going to get an A." Right in the middle of the semester, they're like, "Oh no, I don't think I'm going to get an A." Right? But if you
Mm-hmm.
believe to the very end
Mm-hmm.
and you confess it to the very
Mm-hmm.
end,
Mm-hmm.
so to me, the place, and I'll give an example, and then I'll pass in 2020, right? I was on about 3%, and that was when President Trump passed that executive order that
Mm-hmm.
all international students must take online courses.
Mm.
When I heard it, I'm like, man, why are you adding to our stress?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I have not paid my tuition yet.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, let's see what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
So that same week, the Saturday morning, I told my wife, you know what? I want you to join your faith with me. I
Mm.
want us to pray
Mm-hmm.
that this tuition will be resolved.
Gotcha.
That same day, I got an email from the director of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Said, Daniel, I don't know if you saw this executive order. If you are interested to take some of your classes on in person,
Mm-hmm.
we have this amount of money
Mm-hmm.
that we are willing to give to you.
Wow.
This is the same person I met at the beginning of the semester.
Wow.
And she was like, there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm bringing this aspect of faith
Mm-hmm.
that brings hope.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you hit the rock bottom
Yes.
and you're like, what courage do I have?
Yes.
Friends can disappoint you.
Yes.
So if you have hope, you have faith, you have hope.
Yes.
Very important. If we have
Yes.
time, I'll share some of the pillars of this faith.
Okay. All right. Well, we got a few more minutes. I might see if Yarn yapping with Yarn. You got something for us?
Yes, I completely and totally agree with you. I think faith is such an important asset when it comes to spiritualness because, well, quite literally, I wear my faith on my head. I
Mm-hmm.
wear it like a crown. I
Mm-hmm.
am Muslim, alhamdulillah. And for us, um, for me to be in the Muslim Student Association, which
Mm-hmm.
is a student organization on campus, I can say that I've grown more into my faith
Mm-hmm.
and more into my religion,
Okay.
and I'm continuing to learn, but it's with the same people around me.
Mm-hmm.
It's with like-minded individuals, which
Mm-hmm.
makes it all the more better.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think my transition from high school to college has been drastic. Like, I couldn't imagine doing the things I do right now like a year ago. And I think the way you mentioned prayer, right? Make prayer is hope,
Mm-hmm.
right? Prayer is hope. And so with that hope, it's really just based on your spiritualness.
Yes. Yes, I love that. So, Dan, I'm going to give you a few minutes to share out on some of those pillars, and then I'm going to make sure I do my commercial breaks. I know Dr. Stacy's listening, and then we're going to bring on our king of Raptorville, and to sort of close this out with some thoughts too, Dr. Wayne Shaw. So, close us out, Daniel, with your thoughts about what are some of those pillars that could continue to help foster hope and build our
So the
faith.
first is what I did mention from
Mm-hmm.
right,
Mm-hmm.
very crucial. Second one is understanding the concept of giving.
Mm,
And
mhm,
when Dr. Kia was talking about
mhm,
I interpret that as give.
mhm,
How do you
mhm,
give? And the concept of giving, you need that is you appreciating what you have.
mhm.
But you can't give what you don't have.
Yes, that's true.
And that makes you appreciate that at
Mhm,
least I have something. With my little interaction with students, I realized that this is human.
mhm,
We worry a lot, but have not
mm,
what we don't have.
mhm,
But
mhm,
you have
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we lose sight of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have that proper understanding,
Mm-hmm.
that helps manage communication and the final is
Mm-hmm.
we haven't a shared vision
Mm-hmm.
and you putting yourself out talking to someone. No one can achieve by himself.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going through something, look at someone.
Mm-hmm.
Share your experience. And also, coming back to the giving, right? One thing that I do is I spend time giving out to students.
Okay.
Time,
Mm-hmm.
my dear students, I'm not great at mathematics. I love mathematics. So when I hear someone struggling with mathematics, sincerely, I'm like, why?
Mm.
Right? So I try my best to assist them out, and that's one way I help students and finally like talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
share what you're going through. It's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Encourage everyone. If you're not in any community, it's there for you.
I love that.
Show you how to connect with the supreme God.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, how to nourish your soul
Mm.
and to grow spiritually strong
Mm-hmm.
to nourish them.
Mm-hmm. So before you close, how do people connect to the Peppers Group? Do they reach out to you? Is it an email, a link, or something you could share for folks?
So the purpose group is yes. So for now, we are still in the process of
Okay.
formation, but we've partnered with the graduate students organization.
Okay.
So one of the key contacts, right,
Mm-hmm.
aside from me, is Jobo
Okay.
right here, and then Mr. Abbas.
Okay.
So any of these two people,
Okay.
once you get in touch with them, you'll be able. And this coming Friday,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have Dr. Stacey Haynes
Okay.
talking to us
Okay.
right at the graduate house.
Okay.
So everyone is welcome from 1 to 3, and it's going to be an awesome.
Yeah, she's good people. And let me listen to the boss lady because I have to do my little commercial break. So I want to let everybody know we have two fantastic events coming up this month. It's the Day of Happy. I really love the name of this. It's going to be led by one of our trainees, Christian Franco. So it come experience a day of joy, laughter, and connection filled with uplifting activities, positive vibes, and memorable moments that will leave you smiling and feeling less stressed. This is Wednesday, March 20th, free period. It's going to be in a business and science building, room 118. So come and be happy, everybody. The next one is we have a virtual event. This is a virtual mindfulness event. Again, this is going to be with one of our fantastic trainees, Matt Choquette. He's our sports psychology doctoral intern. So you come on and work with him virtually to learn how to unwind and recharge at this mindfulness workshop. They're going to explore relaxation techniques and cultivate present moment awareness and embrace inner balance for a calmer, more fulfilling everyday life. So I know everybody wants a calmer and more fulfilling everyday life, and everybody wants to be happy. So come join us on March 20th, Wednesday, March 20th for the Day of Happy, as well as Thursday, March 21st at free period for the virtual mindfulness event. And when you sign up for the virtual mindfulness event, they'll send you a Zoom link to help with that. So what I want to do is I want to thank our guests out, Daniel and Yaren. Y'all are the best as ever. Thank you. I really appreciate your insights and the pillars in terms of what we need to think about from a spiritual perspective. Thank you for the comments and the insights on how we link our spiritual selves to our relational world, and how we can encourage students to find those strategies. And what I keep hearing, this is our second, my second show. We've talked about loneliness, and now we're talking about spiritual awareness and relational health. And what I keep hearing is this sense of connection, and how we have to tap into that, and how we need to think about what communities that we can really be a part of to strengthen us. And what I want to do as we shift over to Dr. Shaw and have some conversations around with the king of Raptorville is thinking about what are some of those precautions, like what should we talk and thinking through in terms of our physical health, and in terms of strategies that will help us make sure that we're okay and that we can function in a healthy community. So we're going to bring on Dr. Shaw and have this quick conversation with the king of Raptorville. He's always ready. and he always has something to say. So I love listening to him, and I'm just going to try to keep a straight face and hold the giggle. So whenever you're ready, Dr. Shaw.
Good afternoon, Raptorville. Hey, boss man, you probably would have fired the king today. I'm not gonna lie.
Why would I
I
fight? What?
didn't realize I had this actual radio event until this morning. No,
Mhm.
actually not this morning, about a half an hour ago when
Okay.
I glanced over at my email. So I am pretty much going completely off the top of my head.
Okay, well, you need to give you a preface.
Well, we'll
you
see.
good?
We'll
Okay.
see. We'll see.
Well, listen.
We'll see. I feel
I
like
trust
Jay-Z
you.
right now.
Listen, I'm gonna let you be. You
Funk
work it out.
Master Flex and Jay-Z. All right, here we go. Let's freestyle. How may I help you today?
So what we were talking about is we were working on sort of spiritual health and relational health. And one of the questions that came up from a physical health, relational health perspective is, when maybe we can talk about this at both levels, is what would you be expecting people, like if spiritual issues popped up? What are some ways that sort of our medical practitioners need to think about that? So if that's a concern for some of your clients, and then I want to talk about the relational piece, which is, how should people be prepared to take care of themselves as they're entering in this relational world? What are some things that they're coming into the doctor's office? Like what are some things they should be talking about with their, medical professionals, as well as what tests they might want to think about, so that they, I think we joked with somebody, I think Dr. Marquita, when we were prepping for the show, we said, not everybody that looks clean is clean. It's like, so we were thinking there's a whole lot of stuff going, and she gave me a statistic, which is startling, that Philadelphia, I think, is almost the #1 city in terms of positive STD cases. So it's a lot of stuff going on around here in this relational space. And so I always want to make sure that we're kind of keeping it real and making people know that you got to think about this at a lot of levels. It's like you said, with body, mind, and spirit. So you're the body guy.
Jeez, boss man. I mean, you spent like an hour talking about dating and encouraging people, and now we trying to scare them straight.
If that's what it takes.
So yeah, I guess the first question is pretty hard, right? Because in medicine, they really, really, really try to push us to be, I guess separation of, and I guess this is with allopathic medicine, people with the word MD behind their names. It's a separation between sort of church and state, so to speak, or spirituality and what's going on with the physical body, because everybody has a different level of spirituality and what they consider. Typically what we run into is you still have to be cognizant of what someone believes, because not everything is appropriate during the physical exam. So I would say, if you are of a faith where, so to speak, a man should not, sort of, converse with you with certain things or do certain things on a physical exam, that could be expressed, and that should be, an open conversation.
Good.
And I do encourage that, in order for you to get a sort of, both people to get an understanding during, your doctor's visits. Is there a need for spirituality? Absolutely. As far as it sort of begins when you're a newborn, so to speak, where spirituality oftentimes is the mechanism for us to sort of gather together, and that gathering sort of helps brain health. It increases certain neurotransmitters, or not neurotransmitter, but serotonin, dopamine, so forth.
They are neurotransmitters.
These are chemicals that are sort of replicated through the medications we give you when you're feeling depressed and so forth. So that togetherness is probably innate. The actual, I guess the wanting of being next to people is sort of innate. And when that is not there, it can lead to pathological thinking.
Wow. Okay.
So the third thing, the scared straight portion. I've been running this commercial for the past 3 times. We do have STD clinics. you can go relatively anywhere that as far as medical facilities is concerned, and actually get an STD test taken. I will highly advise you, if you're going into any type of relationship, intimate, sexually, sort of, you and your partner should definitely go and get your STDs checked. Make sure your papers are straight, I would say. There is nothing more attractive than to have a clean piece of paper. I mean, you could carry it around like it's your driver's license. I promise you, it will go a long way for you.
I got a question though. How do you have a conversation with your partner, like, or a potential partner, about getting that done? Do you have any tips for folks?
Oh, not I see. I like that, Dr. Lee. Before you was hitting me with the loneliness, but now I feel like the man now. Well, I can only go off of past experience. Basically, I would just bust it out. Like halfway through the conversation, I was like, well, no, I'm just playing. Here's my CD. So typically when you really are feeling someone, and this you got to gauge, level spirituality. There's a lot of religious aspects to it, and some people do not want to move that quickly. So obviously you got to gauge who you are with. But if your goal is to be intimate with that person, there's usually a conversation beforehand, and I hope there is, because and nowadays even more so than ever, there should be a conversation beforehand. Otherwise, you probably might end up in trouble. And during that conversation, it's a good time to sort of make a date out of it, which would be like sort of like a running joke between you and that person. Or, if you already had your previous STD test, always ask for the record. And so that you can print out and say, hey man, I got my STD tested, screening test done. And this is what it shows. So I just want you to know that I'm safe, and do you have yours? And ultimately, you might get some pushback, but people are relatively level-headed when it comes to that, and it does show maturity. Like I said, there's nothing more attractive than having a clean set of papers.
Let me ask another question. How long do papers last?
They last until you can get them checked as much as possible. There is no sort of like guidelines as far as when to get them. But they usually recommend when you change partners to get them. Or unfortunately, if you find out something you don't want to find out, you was running through that phone and there was other people there that wasn't supposed to be there doing other things. Definitely go and get it checked out.
I hear you. And I think one of the things I think Dr. Shaw, mentioned, just based on where you're at in your spiritual sort of journey, that abstinence is real for people. Being celibate and waiting until you're married, that is a real choice for real people. And I think what we're really just encouraging everybody to think about in all of this conversation about relationships, spiritual health, and even your physical health, is to be level-headed. I think really and stay true to the belief system that makes sense for you. And I always say, if people are resistant or not open to accepting your choices, that's a red flag around what the future will hold, because you don't want to keep compromising yourself, because continuing to do so is going to keep putting yourself at risk. And whether it's at you physically, like we've been talking about, in terms of your mental health, or in terms of whatever your spiritual sort of relationship is. So any closing thoughts from the king of Raptorville? You did a good job as usual. So, you can keep your job until the next radio show, at least.
Thank you. Just want to say, be blessed, Raptorville, and continue loving each other. All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. I'm going to close again, and I want to thank Dr. Shaw. He is a really, really smart MD. If you haven't touched base with him yet, you're missing something. So he's not just funny on the radio show, he's funny in real life too. So I think you will enjoy him. So remember our two events: March 20th, Free Period, Day of Happy with Christian Franco, and March 21st, this is a virtual event with Mark Choquette. It's going to be our virtual mindfulness activity. So until the next time, this is Dr. Lee. You're going to be looking into the next show, which will be financial stress. So for all of those people who are asking this question, why I'm in school and why am I getting a degree? We're going to talk a little bit about that and to let you know that it does pay off, whether you believe it or not. So until the next time, we'll see you at Thrive at 12. Thank God. Oh, Jesus. I don't know what happened, but y'all did a good job. Whatever way it is, I tell people we'll get better by the third. So I'm going to tell Stacey, they be blowing up my phone. I'll be like, I don't know.
No, the website also doesn't, like, it also messes up sometimes.
Yeah, it's right.
Like,
You know what I mean? I guess what I was going to say. I said, yeah, that's like